Good morning, eighth grade science class, both in person and online. Today, we're going to be going over our final day, day 10 of our 10-day STAR review. Still covering organisms and the environment, but home finish line's right around the corner, guys. We're almost there. We'll be testing this Thursday in science, and you'll be testing in history Friday. Yep. Number one, the Arctic hare is pictured below. It's camouflaged in the snow from possible predators. However, when summer arrives, what traits will allow the hare to avoid predators? So we're looking for traits that will help us avoid predators, and only traits that are going to do that. All right, just avoid predators. So we're going to knock off anything that doesn't involve a predator-prey relationship. So its long ears for keen hearing and fast hind legs. The keen hearing would be able to help it hear from predators, and the hind legs being able to move faster away from predators. All right, so A is a good choice, but let's make sure B, C, and D aren't better. B, the ability to eat lots of grass. Well, that's just going to make it retain energy better. That's not going to make it a faster prey. It's not going to make it it's not going to make its chance of survival any higher. C, it's relatively small size in comparison with predators. So if it has a relatively small size compared to its predators, it could make it an advantage, right? Because that prey may be able to get around or move quicker. But if a predator is going to be larger than the predator is probably going to have an advantage just in size itself. So again, not a poor choice, but not our best. A is still looking better. And then D, the thickness of its fur, that's going to help in cold weather temperature, but it's not going to help it avoid any predators. So A is our best choice. Number two, in question one, what would happen if the Arctic hare did not have these specific traits? So what's going to happen to the Arctic hare if it doesn't have the ability to avoid these predators, if it doesn't have that thick fur to help it in the winter, if it doesn't have the ability to eat lots of grass and store a whole lot of energy? So what's going to happen to this animal if it didn't have these desired traits? The species would become overpopulated. Well, it's not going to become overpopulated. In fact, if it doesn't have these traits needed to survive, it's going to lose some of its population. So it can't be A. The chance of young hares surviving to adulthood and reproducing will be greatly diminished. Diminished means lessened, right? So it's going to have less of a population. This is true. The hare would be a more popular target for game hunters. We're saying game hunters, and the point of game hunting is for sport, all right? So the more challenge, the better. So if these animals didn't have the ability to get away from predators, if they weren't camouflaged, if they weren't able to survive in different temperatures, they weren't be hunted as much. And then D, all the above. Well, we already marked off answer choice A and C, so it can't be all the above. So you're only left with B, a diminished population. And just the theory of natural selection, guys, Darwin's theory just states that if you do not have the traits needed to survive, you will die off. All right, you won't be able to find a mate because you don't have the desired traits to survive in that environment. Number three, in the graph below, what is a possible reason why the population of the gray peppered moth in England's changed? So over here on the left side of the chart, we have population in millions for moth. And over at the bottom, we have years, okay? So we're looking at population, and we're looking at the years. And it looks like the years are spread out a couple hundred years. So we have the 1700s to 1800s, 1800s, 1900, and then 1900s on, okay? So let's go through the answer choices. Human population during the Industrial Revolution changed the moth's natural habitat. Well, we can see that the population has greatly decreased in the 1800s, okay? It's time for the Industrial Revolution. So A is a really good choice. Let's just check B, C, and D to make sure that they're not better. The number of predators increased, all right? Well, the number of predators could have increased, guys, but do we see anything on this chart that is telling us about predators? Nothing on the bottom talks about predators. Nothing on the top talks about predators. This chart is not suited to answer that particular question. So it has nothing to do with predators. It has nothing to do with the food source. Again, it's not on the chart here. These are things that we could theorize, but it's not provided on the chart, so we can't say that it's true. And the moths were unable to reproduce. Again, we're not sure based on this chart, but this chart does give us years, and it does give us a population in those years, so we can deduce that around the Industrial Revolution, all right, the human pollution and population increased, which dropped the number of moths in the ecosystem, in the environment. All right, answer choice A. For number 4, polar bears depend on sea ice in order to hunt for seals. If Arctic temperatures increase, meaning they're going to go up and ice is going to melt, what is the long-term outlook for polar bears? Well, guys, if the polar bear's hunting environment is diminishing or shrinking, all right, what's going to happen to the polar bear population? All right, it's not going to increase. B says it's going to decrease, correct? Let's check C and D just to be sure. It's not going to remain the same, all right? And though the polar bears could adapt quickly and find new food sources, the better choice, guys, here is B. Their population are going to decrease. Very hard for animals to create a change quickly. It usually takes generations, evolution to occur in order for them to adapt to new environments or new food sources. They would possibly adapt, but most likely their population is going to decrease before that adaptation could be made, if it's ever made. Okay, so answer choice B. Next, it wants us to use this dichotomous key to answer number 5. Pretty simple, guys. Dichotomous key, remember, you're going to answer yes and no, and you're just going to follow the key down. Eventually, the key will end to an animal. If that's where your key ends up, that's the animal that you're describing. So here we have a fish that was caught by Jesse. It has an oval-shaped body, no barbell, all right, and a forked tail fin. All right, so we need to go through this chart and we need to answer these questions. So first question, all right, barbells or whiskers present, all right? No barbells present, so we're going to go over to no. As you see, if we would have chosen yes, it would be a catfish. Right off the bat, we know it was a catfish. All right, but it does not have barbells, so we go over here. All right, it's asking, is the tail fin forked? All right, forked tail fin right here. So yes, it is forked. All right, and then it says elongated body. All right, if you have an oval-shaped body, all right, or an elongated body. Okay, good. So oval-shaped body is going to be a bluegill. Okay. Now, in order to go further down, if we would have answered yes, if we didn't have an elongated body, then we would have had to know how many fins it had, all right? How many anal fins it had, 3 or more or 2 or fewer, all right? If it had more, it'd be a largemouth bass. If it had fewer, it'd be a perch. But since it's not an elongated body, as an oval-shaped body, it's going to be a bluegill, okay? So it just answered no, then yes, then no. Good. Answer choice 6. Question 6. Which statement best completes the chart below? All right, it talks about asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction and the advantages and disadvantages of both. All right, well, let's just go look at the advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction. Allows for the reproduction from a single individual. A disadvantage would be that it does not promote the diversification. All right, now what is an advantage of sexual reproduction? All right, greater variation in the genes of offspring make them less susceptible to disease. Now remember, sexual reproduction is good because if there is a disease present in a community, you're mixing genes from multiple parents, right? So you're more likely to find genes that don't have that disease present. But if you were asexual and you had a disease, you would pass down that disease to all of your offspring since you're making an identical genetic copy to yourself. So the advantage of sexual reproduction is we widen our genetic variation. We have more of a gene pool to pull from, and you're less likely to get diseases. But let's double check, make sure B, C, and D aren't better choices before we move on. Allows for a rapid reproduction? No, sexual reproduction takes time. Remember, it takes a long time to find a mate. So that takes time, takes energy. Does not happen rapidly like asexual reproduction. So it's not rapid. C, genetic traits are likely to be an exact match. If you're not an exact match, that's an asexual reproduction when you have one parent. And then D, provides the ecosystem more consistency. Consistency means that you're going to have the same thing, like uniform. All right. And if you're producing sexually, then you're going to have a lot of genetic variation. All right. So that's not going to be D as your answer choice. Only good choice is A. Number 7, the heart pumps blood to the lungs, allowing the blood to become oxygenated and then carrying that oxygen to the cells within the body. This describes a key interaction between which two body systems. So the key word there is your heart pumps blood. So pumps blood to the lungs, allowing the blood to become oxygenated. Oxygenated, carries oxygen. Okay, oxygenated right there. Okay. So what system do you know that brings oxygen into your body? That's going to be your respiratory system. And what system do you know that pumps that blood with all its nutrients and its oxygen throughout your body? That's going to be your circulatory system. So not your endocrine, not your skeletal, not your digestive, not your nervous. Answer choice B, your circulatory and respiratory system. You got to get that oxygen into the blood somehow. Your lungs do that. Your blood carries it throughout your body. Number 8, which of the following characteristics best describes the animal kingdom? All right, now we're talking about the animal kingdom, so we got to knock out a few things, okay? Autotrophic means that it produces its own food. Auto. All right, animals do not automatically produce their own food. They have to get their own food. Either they consume plants or they can consume animals or a mix of both, but they're not autotrophic. So autotrophic is not a choice, so you can completely knock out B. Now, animals are heterotrophic, so we have A, C, and D that are already lined up. Good choices here. Now let's talk about prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Remember, no. Pro means no nucleus, all right? Eukaryotic, like you, all right, means that you have a nucleus. You're a complex cell, all right? You have lots of complex cells in your body. You're not prokaryotic. So we can mark off anything pro, no nucleus. Yeah, because those are going to be simple cells. They're not going to be animal cells. All right, and then our last one, all right, is talking about multicellular, unicellular. All right, well, multicellular is our only choice left in C. And we know that because you have multiple cells making up your body. Not unicellular, like, say, a bacteria made up of just one cell, okay? Animals are going to be multicellular, all right, eukaryotic, and heterotrophic. Number 9, in the plant cell below, which arrow is pointed to the organelle that contains the genetic material for inherited traits? All right, so which one of these organelles is going to carry your genetic DNA? All right, let's kind of go through them real quick. Looks like we have a cell wall, okay, all right, cell membrane, maybe some cytoplasm, okay. Looks like we have a vacuole, all right, a smaller vacuole here, but still a vacuole. Looks like we have, remember our small little windows letting in sunlight, so that could be our chloroplast, allowing for photosynthesis. We have our mitochondria here, which is little wires wrapped up in those jelly beans. Remember, those are the powerhouses of our cell. They're going to help create energy, okay? But right at A, we have our nucleus, and our nucleus is the brain of the cell, guys. It contains all the genetic information that's going to be passed down from cell to cell. All right, cell theory, guys. Remember, cell theory is made of 3 things. All cells come from pre-existing cells. Cells are the building blocks to life, all right? And all living things are made from cells, okay? So cells use energy from food to sustain life, not quite. Like cells carry similar functions. All living things come from cells, correct? All cells in all organisms of the same species carry the exact same genetic trait. This is also untrue. Okay. All right. Okay, similar functions. All right, but cell theory does not include the idea that cells use energy from food to sustain life. Cells are the food in retrospect. Number 11, the picture below shows how runoff from an urban location is routed, okay, to the ocean. Pollution in the runoff can damage ocean ecosystems. A likely cause of the runoff is what? Okay, so again, runoff is going to be pollution that's going off into our water supply, into our oceans, into our lakes, into our rivers. Okay, a likely cause of the runoff from this area: A, a large amount of farmland to support more people. B, pavement and concrete prevent water from entering the groundwater. C, increased rainfall in the urban areas. Or D, sediments being deposited in the streams and rivers around the urban areas. So it's saying that pollution is the key word here, guys. So which one is going to cause the most pollution, all right? Farmland is going to soak up a lot of the water, guys, so it can't be that. Pavement and concrete is going to prevent water from entering the ground, which means it's going to stay on top of the ground. It's going to run off into our systems here. There's not going to be an increased rainfall in urban areas, guys. We're controlling how many people are there. We're not controlling the weather that's taking place. And then sediments being deposited in streams, that's a natural process. That's nothing to do with pollution. So our best answer choice is B. All right. A lot of vocab here today, guys. Make sure you guys complete that to the best of your ability. Use your 8th grade STAR book, the vocabulary in that section, especially the cell section, to help you out on there, okay? Just match it up, and you're all done. Good luck. And as always, hit that bell icon, like, and subscribe. I will see you in class. And if I don't see you before then, good luck on the STARS test.